Good afternoon, or what is a warm, bright and sunny day. It is Monday the 2nd of April. I've got a nice hot cup of tea. Well, and a role-playing game to unbag. Because this came courtesy of my friendly local gaming store, Wayland's Forge, here in Birmingham. And you may well have noticed that I've looked at several volumes of the core Pathfinder rules of late. What really kind of has spurred my interest in Pathfinder is two things. Of course, one has been, at the time of speaking, the recent furore over the terms of the open game license, which Wizards of the Coast attempted to change and then changed its mind again, and then of course the scenarios and content available for Pathfinder, and there's quite a lot of that, including you going all the way back to classic campaign line, the Adventure Path, Rise of the Runelords. Now I have a copy of Rise of the Runelords, but there's also a copy available for Savage Worlds, and I'm a fan of Savage Worlds, so Pathfinder, the role-playing game, Savage Worlds version, the core rulebook. Pathfinder for Savage Worlds, adventure awaits. An ancient and evil undead thing rises in a dark dungeon. A long-forgotten horror stirs in the dark forest. A hungry and vengeful dragon awakens in forgotten mountains. A cry for help echoes across the world of Golarion. Brave souls, the Pathfinders, answer the call. They are crafty rogues, powerful sorcerers, and deadly fighters. They are humans, elves, dwarves, gnomes, and halflings. They are heroes. Pathfinder Savage Worlds combines the fast, furious fun of the best-selling, award-winning Savage Worlds game system with incredible depth and excitement of Paizo's phenomenal Pathfinder role-playing game and the world of Golarion. Create your adventures or play one of the legendary adventure paths. The first of these, the Rise of the Runelords campaign, is available separately. This book contains the Savage Worlds rules, specifically tailored for the world of Golarion. All you need are dice, a deck of playing cards for initiative, and some bold friends to share your adventures with. So, this is not a supplement for Savage Worlds. This is a standalone rulebook. So you don't need Savage Worlds at all. And we open up, and it's obviously got a map of Golarion, not marked though, so you're still kind of going, where is everything? Just check. And yes, in the back. Would have been nice if what they'd done, I think, would have been this one in the back had been actually marked with place names and that sort of thing. Anyway, so here the credits and contents. And this is the first thing about this is this is a smaller rulebook for Pathfinder, but it's also a bigger rulebook for Savage Worlds. And this has got the cover for Savage Worlds First Edition on it. So, sorry, not Savage Worlds First Edition, Pathfinder First Edition. My error there. So, this gives you a guide of, anytime, any place, how you play it, how you get started, nice artwork, explanation of how Savage Worlds plays, and does have that sort of what is a role-playing game introduction, and it sort of actually, what you need to play, dice, action deck, a savage setting, bennies, which is essentially the hero points, miniatures are optional, published adventures, and it says basic published adventures. Pinnacle is converting Paizo's original first edition adventures of Pathfinder, starting with Hollow's Last Hope, available with the Savage Pathfinder Game Master screen. And then all other Savage settings often include plot point campaigns, a grand backstory to the campaign world, and a set of adventures. That eventually resolve the main plot. Now, plot point campaigns are kind of like sandboxes with plots. The Pathfinder for Savage Worlds, we're converting Paizo's legendary adventure paths. The first, Rise of the Runelords, offers an epic 6-book saga that takes a party from heroes from novice to legendary rank. Okay, so that's the basics of it, and then we dive into essentially background information about Golarion and the setting, and days of the week, months of the year, society, technology, wealth, and climate. And here we have a map of the Inner Sea region, actually marked up, unlike the sections inside the front and back pages of the book. And a list here of what's new for Savage Worlds players. because, you know, what are the changes necessary to make Savage Worlds work as if it was being run in a Pathfinder style. So, you know, it prepares. Now you're all pretty much prepared. You've got to this point. Here's how to build characters. You know, you're talking things like concept, ranks, ancestry, hindrances, which are disadvantages, skills, you know, attributes, sorry, stuff like that, edges and backgrounds. Edges are the equivalent of your advantages, you know, and that can include your species, or, you know, your ability with a bow and so on. And here we've got details of the various ancestries available. Now, there is no doubt that essentially, if you've got a copy of Savage Worlds for the core rules, that you can do fantasy with that. Not a problem. You know, you just need to provide a scenario. Everything is in there. But here you have, you know, essentially the Savage Worlds version of another fantasy setting. So we've got, you know, a whole list of hindrances, and hindrances actually will come into play. They'll probably they'll earn you bennies, you know, the hero points which you'll use for major advantage to gain, you know, benefits and so on. It's also it's you generally, what you tend to do in Savage Worlds is you're combining an attribute with a skill, or sorry, you're either rolling a skill and the wild die, or an attribute or a wild die, that sort of thing, to do a task, and they're die types. So it looks very different to Pathfinder. So you've got a list of all the skills, the languages and so on, and then the edges for, you know, the advantages, you know, which could be alertness or aristocrat, brute. There's a multi-classing edge, so you can take, you know, different classes, and then what you're really essentially trying to do then is sort of build your character to fit a class, and then you can go into the class. So, for example, the barbarian requires it to be of novice rank, have a strength of a six-sided die or greater, and a vigor of a six-sided die or greater. And then you've got the various abilities that you get automatically as a barbarian. So, and then you have kind of like an example here of advancement track. So as you go up in ranks, you know, you will gain advantages, and they're quite simple, straightforward. So for barbarian, you know, advancement track, first advancement track, okay, is, say, a trademark weapon, bastard sword, then the ability to sweep, then vigor is increased to a 10-sided die, and then powerful blow, and so on at the next step, and so a seasoned rank, and then sort of like, you know, then fighting degen, menacing, counterattack, then intimidating glare, at veteran, and so on. You have that sense of a progression for all the different kind of, for the key characters, as well as sort of like as the player characters. So you've got bard and a cleric, and this is using the classic Pathfinder artwork. This is used over and over again, but here used specifically for all the six characters you've got at the beginning of the Rise of the Rune Lords, and this is accompanied with a discussion of deities and domains for your gods of Galarian. And then we have a druid, fighter, monk, all the classic classes, paladin, rogue, sorcerer, and wizard. And we're continuing on. Let me go back to sort of like all the edges. So lots of those, you know, combat edges, leadership edges, power edges, which are for your for your basically your arcane and holy powers. So you might be an arcane archer or arcane trickster, a dragon disciple, Pathfinder chronicler, and so on. Lots of options in here. Professional edges: ace, acrobat, jack of all trades, thief, troubadour. You can see a lot of those plugging into particular classes. Social edges, weird edges. You know, you can have a beast bond, perfect for your druid. Legendary edges. Then we have the guide to advancement, and then summaries and so on of all the stuff that you've said that's come before that. And then gear, equipment. So various tables of that, including illustrations. Those are quite nice. Personal weapons. Special weapons, including siege equipment. So your special weapons include cannons and siege engines, alchemical items, vehicles, boats, carriages, alchemical dragons, and so on. And then we get onto the rules. And much of this will be familiar with the Savage Worlds player. Essentially, you're rolling a couple of dice, one for because you're a wild card, one because you're for your skill or attribute, and your aim is to roll high. And if you roll exact number, the maximum number on a die, it explodes and you keep rolling, and the highest die counts. That's it. And typically, you only really have to roll 4 or more to succeed. It's that it. That's that simple. I mean, there are going to be some minor changes and so on to account for the different kind of play styles for Pathfinder. Also combat. Healing, situational rules. And then various maneuvers. So you've got things in here like defend, desperate attack, disarm, distracted, firing into melee, that sort of thing, mounted combat, improvised weapons, all comprehensive. And Savage Worlds is sort of like it's what 20 years old, so you know it's a sound, solid system. Having come out of sort of like Deadlands and then the Great Train Race box set, which is a simplified version of Deadlands, and then turned into a role-playing game of its own. And there's so much that's been spun out of Savage Worlds since. So the adventure toolkit. So allies, creative combat. There's essentially a guide there. Things to do in downtime. I mean, a lot of this is looking similar, sort of like similar discussions that you had in the Pathfinder rulebook, but in a more compact form. Dramatic tasks. So multi-based tasks. Dealing with things like death traps and fear and hazards, disease, various effects like electricity and drowning. Interlude. Things to do between adventures or between scenes, so downtime, backstory, treks, and again, you could generate these randomly by drawing cards, because initiative in Savage Worlds you are drawing ordinary deck of playing cards to determine your place in the order. Some edges and hindrances will affect that order, of course. Rules for mass battles. Because the other thing about Savage Worlds is it does scale up, so you can handle sort of like one-on-one battles to sort of like your party against a group of enemies, to a bit more than that for skirmishes. Networking, quick encounters, rules and guidelines for that. Social conflict and travel. powers. So this is dealing with magic. And the trappings required, activation. It's cantrips, which your caster can use at will. Arcane devices and examples, and then we get into the schools of magic and the powers. So yeah, long list of spells here at the back. I won't show you all of those because otherwise, you're all going to get spelled out. But we've got a summary of them handy for everyone. Magical items. So this all kind of feels very much like as if Pathfinder's origins itself, of course, have come from Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition and edition 3.5. So this sort of ultimately does feel as if Savage Worlds is how to do a Dungeons and Dragons fantasy style campaign or game in Savage Worlds. Opening up that options. Got the section of game mastering. To, of course, adapting Pathfinder rather than Dungeons and Dragons. Setting up a campaign, gathering the party, campaign types. So you can run hack and slash campaigns, exploration, role playing, mysteries. They're kind of, it's a bit brief here. It's certain because to an extent because it's a smaller book. How to run the game. And awarding bennies is going to be, immersion, interruptions, die rolls, pacing, combat pacing, essentially. That applies, of course, to Pathfinder as much as it does to it does to Savage Worlds. But again, the play style will affect that to some extent. Then we've got a bestiary. This is going to be relatively short, because we get to the end of the book. Monster types. And then the bestiary itself. Quite short. So mostly animals here so far. So yeah, not much. Like you actually need the full bestiary itself, I think, to get the most out of it. Although you've got zombies there at the end. That's the character sheet, which is a lot more detailed, or has a lot more space for things to put in it than your standard Savage Worlds character sheet. And over the page, what you've got are templates, and these essentially for when you're playing at the table, you've got a large blast template, cone template. These are for your spell effects, and then index. So yeah, that's the core rules for Pathfinder Savage Worlds, available from Pinnacle Entertainment. So this enables, if you're a regular Savage Worlds player, to really go and play in a role-playing fantasy style campaign without going and actually picking up a role-playing fantasy role-playing game, if you see what I mean, without picking up a copy of Dungeons and Dragons or a copy of Pathfinder. And it means you can pick up something like the Pathfinder box set, Rise of the Runelords, and play that. So yeah, Pathfinder, the role-playing game for Savage Worlds, core rules. Anyway, thank you for watching this unboxing in the Nook. If you've enjoyed this, please do click on the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings out here, where you typically will see me with a box, but in this case, it's a Ziploc bag, which I'll unbox, containing a book or game which I'll unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so. All, of course, accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do hit the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching. Be back again soon with another unboxing in the Nook. Bye for now.